Yo, yo, what's up, Jordan?
Turn my headphones up.
Let's get cracking. It's
How you
Friday.
doing? Yeah,
Friday.
indeed it is. TGIF.
Yeah, I don't know. TGIF. It's been a interesting week. A lot of stuff's different, like obviously with COVID outside, but also inside, like in my head. I don't know about you, but have you been like feeling like things that used to excite you, not as much, things that I don't know, like kind of like I've been having a mild, like not an identity crisis, but like a mild, like, what am I doing? Like, what's the next step? You know what I mean?
I yeah, I mean fair. Your experience is your experience. I would say that I have been um in a state of transition on certain fronts, and I already knew I was going into some transition, and I've just been kind of leaning into it. So a lot of slogging, a lot of doing activities that I don't love that are necessary, stretching muscles. So I would say it has been some transition for me, but I kind of knew that pre-COVID. So that's been my experience.
Got it. And the transitions, is it just minutia, or are you feeling, anxiety or different, like, are you even like not feeling like your normal self? Because new stuff, transitions can be kind of uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, it's definitely felt uncomfortable. I think we talked about in the last show. Like I totally panicked when the first COVID thing happened. First news was happening, watching it happen in real time, following it before the bomb actually goes off. That was definitely a pretty surreal experience. But now that things have stabilized and the apocalypse has failed to come for a couple months in a row, at least within our little industry, other people are hurting really bad. Have you done any of your strategic coach calls? I had mine earlier this week. I was just kind of blown away getting out of the insular group of world of property management, talking about the people whose revenue has gone to zero, staff of 40 down to six. And it's creating quite a bit of gratitude for me to talk to folks that are hurting a lot worse than I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard one story in my group, someone with like some ridiculous number, like a 35, $40 million company, like close, like gone. Like that's a big life change, I would imagine. So
I I had this one gal refer. She was like trying to be positive. She was calling it a sabbatical. I was like, bro, can you imagine going to zero and referring to it as a sabbatical? I mean, that's some that's some spin right there. To have your business go to zero in revenue, like the idea of a sabbatical sounds fun until it involves all of your revenue evaporating.
it brings up an interesting something I've been thinking about with, especially my reaction to things. I think it was prompted with my wife pointing out, like, hey, aren't you scared? I think we talked about this at some point. Like, hey, aren't you scared? Like, you're not like sometimes she'll call me out and be like, hey, I need some emotion here. Like, you can't just be positive all the time. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm like, we had to talk. I'm like, yeah, I'm scared, like to a certain degree, but like, I can't do anything about it. So, I'm just trying to control what I can control. But I don't know. I waver. Like sometimes, like I saw a comment like that, I might react like you're nuts. Like I was on this call with not you're nuts, but like you're I don't know, like you're sticking your head in the sand. I was in this call with a bunch of brokers in San Diego County to do an update, and everyone's like, oh, sales are great and like things are great, and warriors are gonna make it, and I don't know. It's like sometimes over positivity, like
yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like it's the hedgehog concept from Good to Great. Like be optimistic, but like also grounded in some reality. I don't know. But then again, it's like whatever works for you, man. Like this is all a dream world we're living in. Like what the hell, like, this world we're living in, like it's whatever you make it. So if that helps you get through the day by thinking it's a certain way, as long as it doesn't like hurt anybody, then I guess it's cool with me.
Yeah, I guess I can see both sides of it. And I thought it was that mourning and the acknowledgement of mourning has been a important thing for me to acknowledge at various points of my life. Certainly with like practical things, like when my dad passed, like I really resisted mourning and when I finally embraced it, it was really helpful and necessary. And my failure to do so for many, many years caused problems. Similarly, even a change in a business partner relationship. Like I know you had a business partner back in the day. You separated. I don't know how long that was for, but I had business partners. My longest one I probably had for 10 plus years now. That would be a separation of, it'd be even a work relationship like that could involve some morning. Having my revenue go down to 20% of what is firing all my staff, that would involve mourning. So to me that seems to be like the disconnect between acting like everything is okay versus just, at least within yourself, being in touch with your own emotions and acknowledging where you're at to not turn into a sociopath.
Yeah. I err on the side of going with your instinct on emotions and trying, I don't know, I try to stay out of my head, and I try to go with my first instinct for a couple reasons. Like you'd sent me a voice note about I had gotten worked up at a certain point about the ocean being closed, and I was like getting angry at a certain point. I was like ready to go in the street, and I was doing like YouTube post or social media, like stories about it. Like I felt like in a calm way, but like you could tell I was upset. And you had kind of just pointed out, which I really appreciated, because I don't have many friends that like will call me out. Like, you know, it's actually really refreshing. Like to someone that knows you. So I appreciate our friendship. Like, hey man, this just like didn't seem like it was like you. And I marinated on that, and I was like, yeah, it's true. Like I feel like I have some hot buttons top issues, and like one of them is
Yeah.
like our liberty, like government overreach. Like I get triggered by that. Like seriously, like I don't know, like but I thought about it and I was like, yeah, it didn't really, I didn't benefit. I think you put it well. You said like it didn't benefit any. I don't know if it really benefited anyone. It didn't really benefit me. Didn't really benefit. I don't know. So but then it's I also don't beat myself up about it, because it's just like that's just we all rise and fall. Like even that video I sent you with that guy, man, but he has that disease, and it was like really inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you responded to that like, man, that was like spot on, but I forget that stuff. Kind of like beating yourself up was a little bit of like the tone I got from that text, not like fully, but just a little bit. But I think that's the thing he also pointed out, is like he also has bad days. Like he's not a perfect person. Like we all screw up, and so it's just the human experience, man.
Oh, dude, totally. I actually, what I said in that text was that I'm committed to not beating I used to beat myself up because I would have an epiphany and be like, or I guess, hear something and think that the knowledge was the same as awareness. And I've realized over time that I'm not after an epiphany, I'm after an awareness. And the awareness is oftentimes calling me back to things that I've already learned. And I'm having to come back to it. I used to feel like, oh man, like have to learn this for the fifth time. And now it's like, well, I guess that's just life, at least for me anyway. It's cool. It's not so bad.
Right, right. Yeah, you're right. I love that. It's like
Yeah.
I heard someone say it's not like learning the thing, or it's not making the decision, it's managing the decision. So you learn something and then you're like, okay, I'm going to like adopt this way of being, and then you like it goes out the window in a week. That's why I find my precious Google Keep board. Like if I could not lose one thing in my life, it would be my Google Keep notes. It's like Evernote, but it's like it's where all my ideas are, and I collect ideas, and like in every morning I look at like whatever the the serving of the day is, like whatever I feel I need, I'll bring it up to my pin board, so it like I hit it in the morning, like I see it.
Nice,
And then
nice.
like certain things I'm like, okay, cool, I got that, I don't need to like see that anymore, and I'll move it. But like it's always rotating, so that's one way I try to manage those decisions.
I love that, man. Yeah, I think the thing I was reflecting on recently about relearning was just the idea of my emotions as being feedback. If I'm in a peak state when I get upset or angry or disappointed, at some point I can snap out of it and be like, "Oh, wait, like this is actually useful. My mind, my heart, my body is telling me something right now, which is I need to like pause, reflect on what's going on, and use the anger as information and as a blinking light to say, like, I'm out of um, my expectations are not in line with reality, and the problem is not reality, it's more likely to be my expectations. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like a really helpful thought. And emotional pain, suffering, feelings of suffering, etc., are an indicator that like I can go back to that insight in a moment. But oftentimes I blow past it and I get focused on how reality is actually the problem. um, so that's a hard thing to maintain awareness in the moment. But I've come back to that thought over and over and over again, and so it's something I want to keep coming back to.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I was thinking, I think the conversation with my wife prompted me to overcorrect in a way. I was like, oh, I need to like start sharing, like, I need to be, I don't know, maybe I am hiding too much of like, and I should share. But the thing is, I think you're spot on with what you told me, because being controversial like doesn't sit well with my soul. like I don't know, like I don't like telling people they're wrong. I don't like arguing with people. I don't really like taking positions that are like really, you know, against, maybe it's about the people pleaser in me, but I don't know, like that, it felt good to like fight for that for a little bit, because I did think it was really ridiculous. But I think there's also a way I could have done it like a lot more like calmly. I don't know.
You know, I do think of you as somebody that does take positions. I mean, I feel like there's like an implicit position in your calmness and like you pursuing I don't even have the language offhand to put around it, but you pursuing things that are more in a mindfulness, Zen state, etc. Like you are choosing to alienate people that believe that everything in life is fully rational and fully known and there is no mystery, etc.
Dude, that reminds me of something I heard. It's the best. I don't think I sent you this video, but this scientist said, or no, it was that yoga guy. He was like, all modern science is built on the idea that give me one free miracle and I'll explain the rest. Did you like that? I thought that was so cool. It's like the one free miracle is all the matter and all the laws governing all the universe. So like,
mm,
give me that one free miracle, and then I'll prove that there's no God.
okay, I think I get it now.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's really that's a trip. That's a trip, man. What a
So
trip.
sorry, go ahead.
My my interest in trying to understand and explain things like that is like so much dramatically lower than it was a decade ago. I felt in the past like I needed to understand things like that. And now I'm like, wow, like super obvious. I have zero explanation for the universe and matter and how we got here. You know,
Yeah.
I'm super okay with that now.
Yeah. I'm I'm glad, because it's harder the other way. I'm I'm comfortable like you of just not knowing. I just think the brain is, there's stuff we learned that we think was gospel 10, 100 years ago, that now we're like, that's ridiculous. So just a lot of the, mental positions that this is correct. I don't know. It's just, I think there's so much we don't know and we can't comprehend. So when it's like unsure, I just let it go. No, it's like something greater than myself. I can't explain.
Yeah, my rigid thinking, I think, served me at the time in ways that I don't fully understand, but it's not serving me now, man. I just love that quote of, is it effective or not effective? When I go to the place of trying to moralize about things, it gets really complicated. But when I just ask myself, is a idea, an experience, relationship, is it effective or not effective for the outcomes I'm trying to create? That's like super clarifying for me.
Yeah. So back to that initial question, you are things like different inside? You said there's some transitions going on, but I'm really interested, like, is there this kind of pull across all America or the world where like people are feeling more down, like a collective pain? Like have you been besides like some of the fear around maybe like the economy, like Has it been business as usual in Muela's head?
I mean, I told you, man, I was totally panicking. I thought we were going to hell in a handbasket. Once I found out that we weren't, that was a significant encouragement. But I mean, being inside all day and not going anywhere is not pleasurable to me. Like I had been getting pretty sick of travel because I did it a ton over the last 2 years. But if you told me right now, broke owner starting in 48 hours in a corona-free place, I'm there, baby. So I think part of it's just a circumstantial byproduct of staying at home. But like I said, I think a lot of people have it a lot harder than I do. So I have to assume there's global anxiety and pain and suffering at highly elevated levels. You saw the jobs reports, man, 22 million people out of work. What
Mm,
a what an ass kicking that is that you and I happen to be spared from.
yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. Um, it's given people an opportunity. I think this is what I've been going through, to really reset and be like, what the hell am I doing? Like, um, I don't know, I reevaluated some stuff like music. I was spending a lot of time on it and I'm still doing it, but I was like, I don't know, I was like, I'm on Instagram a lot, like promoting it, and like I'm just like, is it going anywhere? Like I don't know. I was kind of having this like existential crisis with music. And
Mm-hmm.
I finally realized that, at least where I'm at now, is I don't want to make it like this job or this profession or this like goal that I want to attain. I just like the creative part. I was talking to Clint about this. He said, I don't think he'll mind me sharing, but he said when he was growing up, he wanted to get into journalism or something, and that he loved to write. And then like when he was in it, he realized like, shit, actually I just like writing. I don't want to like have to do
Have a career.
the yeah, or something to that effect. And it really resonated with me. So I'm in a little better spot. But there was that, and then just some stuff with work, like trying to figure out, like, I don't know, I'm always, maybe to a fault, I feel like I'm always trying to optimize my output relative to my unique strengths, relative to, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? I'm always like, is this the best thing I can be doing? Like I'm almost have too much space and too much time, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
when you're just like in it, you're just like working. But like now I've like, it's almost like you create a self-managing company to a certain degree, and then it's like, okay, well, I have too much. Like, what the hell am I doing now?
Bro, this is such an interesting conversation to me. So, do you have any insights on how to guide and direct this energy that very clearly can be destructive? This energy is what created the business and created the margin. But when we have the margin, if we're not trained, that ADHD unfulfilled side needs something to do. I'm grateful that you mentioned getting to the point of getting closer to having something like a self-managing company. I feel like I have to head in that direction so as to not just keep breaking things. There's a certain point where my presence is destructive and retarding to the growth of the company because I need to break stuff just for my own like personal sense of meaning, which has really worked. But I mean, there's an element of truth in that.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely become destructive. And the team, has your team pointed that out, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, in certain ways, like, I think the first thing that got pointed out was somebody, me volunteering for something and somebody being like, how about you don't volunteer for that? Because I don't think you're going to do it. And like they said it in a really polite way, but it was like, yes, I think you're right. I wasn't actually going to do that. So good call.
Yeah. Yeah, it is something that I didn't think about in advance and nobody really warned me, but because I do like to work and I like to be, I feel like an obligation to use my, Deepak Chopra calls it your dharma. It's like how you can best serve humanity. He talks about like his kids. He was like, I told my kids, don't worry about making money. If you can't make money, I'll support you. All I want you to figure out is what your unique gifts are and how they can serve humanity. And I really resonate with that because it's right around the unique ability stuff. And it's also like the second mountain idea. Like, we we're we are taught that, prosperity is like what we should be going after, but ultimately we realize it's maturity of the soul, which is like what we're probably after, or like feeling
Mm,
better about our internal game. And
mhm.
so when you have more space, you're just like with yourself. You're like, okay, I'm at my desk. So music scratched that itch for a long time, and it still does. But I don't know. I just don't feel called to spend like half a day like writing songs and then promoting them. Like, I just like want to keep it fun. Like, a little bit in the morning, it's great. I check the box, I feel good. But but it's just been a journey. So I'm trying to sink into the journey and enjoy the journey, and not like, but honestly, man, I've been the last couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks even, I've kind of been like, what do I do? Like, how do I add value? Is it like social media on Good Life? Is it creating blogs? Is it some other new business? So I'm just trying to find my place again, man.
Yeah, I love that. Honest admission. This is really relatable to me. I'd love to just kind of like brainstorm through it. How do you think about R&D? Like, let's say you throw your hands up and you say, okay, it's not the things I'm working on right now. Like, do you feel like you would be comfortable just investing time and effort in R&D and exploring, like just, reading to figure out what the next thing is? Because I'm kind of intuiting that is necessary for me, and I want to budget for that and not feel like it's wasteful
Oh,
or indulgent.
I love how you coined that, R&D. So yeah, I think about that. For some reason, I feel guilty reading in the middle of the day. I feel like I'm like wasting time. Like,
You bum.
we're sick. I'll speak for myself.
Yeah, we are.
Seriously, I remember when I first went to strategic coach, like everyone in there was a mess. I don't know if you experienced this, but like people were like strung out. Like I was like, is this like rehab? Like, are you guys okay? Like, I'm fucking not okay.
Oh my goodness.
but but yeah, so R&D, I like that. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing, man. Like I signed up for that book Story Brand.
Yeah, Donald Miller.
Yeah, he's doing a virtual workshop next week, I think. So I'm gonna go to that. I'm searching. Yeah, I'm definitely in R&D mode, and I think that's a great, because I'll come out of something like that usually, like, or I'll go to broker owner or something, and I won't feel inspired, and I'll leave with like too much to do. So yeah, I think that's a winning, way to go.
And how much leeway do you feel like you have? I think about your decision with music a lot because to me, what it represents or what I make up about it is that music is so different than business that it's basically like a blank check. Like to me, like if I going into music has equivalency with becoming a mountain climber, becoming a school teacher. Like if Steve can do music and I can do music, well then I guess I can just do whatever. Like, do you feel like you have really broad permission to explore a wide range of stuff, or are there still like categories or lanes that you feel bound to?
Yeah, it's got to pull me. I've got to be interested in it. I've read some books, like I think Tim Ferriss is kind of like this, where some people will be like, I learn astronomy, I go deep for 1 year, ultra learning, and then I learn like, all these different, like, that doesn't really appeal to me. There's like, but that's great if someone, like, that would be awesome to be so well rounded like that. But no, it's got to be something I'm initially passionate about, or else I'll, just let it go. But where are you at with that? I know you're we've talked about, you've been searching a little bit for something
Yeah,
else. Like, where are you at with that?
yeah. So I mean, I got some uh, business loose ends that I'm working on navigating through that are an enabling factor for this. I am uh, reading, but I don't know that I'm not reading super broadly. I think I think if I'm being perfectly candid to give you a straight answer, I am on pause or hiatus and in suspended animation. So still thinking, haven't made any kind of a firm commitment or firm progress.
Yeah, got it. And if you did, what's pulling you as far as anything non-work related, or even maybe work related, but something different?
Yeah, I think it would probably my top of mind answer would be to pursue the broad category of personal development, self-awareness, wade into some of the big questions that you and I have talked about, things related to spirituality, etc. As a job or work, no. But for me to face and reconcile and get answers to things that I resist, not because I'm not interested, but because I have some level of fear or resistance to the ramifications of the conclusions that I may come to, probably following that path to its logical and in a really open, broad way would be the first place that I would head.
That would be dope. I love that for you. I love that.
Thanks, man. Let's hope it is. Let's hope it happens. Even as I'm saying that and articulating this, knowing other people will listen to it, I feel like it's a little scary. So I feel like that's going back to the whole thing about emotions informing. I feel like that's useful data in a confirmatory way.
For sure. I want to ask you this question because I love how you'll break down questions often different than I think about them. So, the Dharma thing I was talking about with Deepak Chopra, he says a way to figure it out is you ask that question, probably heard it, like, what would you do if you had all the time and money in the world? So let's say right now you had all the time and all the money in the world. What does Jordan do? Maybe not just today, but just like in general for this week, next week.
This next week. Well, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is to go take a vacation. But, aside from that, I'd probably just throw a giant party. I'd just probably throw a very, very large party.
Right. I love that. So, okay. So let's say the large parties so whatever time, let's say, the initial stuff's, you bought a jet or like we saw a bunch of family members, like ultimately what's Jordan going to do? Like, okay, back to normal. Like, what are you going to do?
Well, who's to say I can't keep throwing parties?
You could, right? That's perfect answer. So I'm not beating your answer up. I'm just curious because I've been thinking about this.
And the party for me is a proxy for relationship, celebration, a communal activity, that sort of thing. I think probably on an ongoing basis, connecting with people, using my unique giftings and abilities to connect with other people, to contribute, to inspire, going deep with other people, helping to facilitate the kind of personal transformation that I've experienced and has been so impactful for me and other people. That's the thing that's most rewarding when you see how elastic and how shiftable humans can be. It's kind of addicting. A lot of the time that I've spent in work and business has been in optimization of degrees, and oftentimes that's how a business goes. It's business is doing $1 million in revenue. If you can get it to 1.5, it's really exciting. I feel like humans, by contrast, have like an infinite potential for growth and change and shift, and that really, really excites me.
Yeah, man, I totally resonate with that. I share that. So two things I want to follow that up with is the first, the question kind of scares me, to be honest, like because I've been not struggling with it, but I've just thinking about it a lot. And when you take away the need to grow a business, like then you're stuck with yourself. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
it's like, okay, so I can't, you could keep chasing money and there's like, it's fun to make money, but like, I don't know, like literally if you had like $100 billion, like, I don't know if like I'd start like an ice cream shop or something. I don't know. But, so there's that. And then, the transformation part I really resonate with because I love podcasting for that reason. And this was the other thing I got down on social media about, and let me know what you think, is I was like doing all these inspirational messages. That's kind of like my thing. I love to inspire. I love to like share ideas. And I'm like, I don't think anyone transforms on Instagram. Like I've been on Instagram, like just by the nature of the platform, like you scroll, like, yeah, every once in a while I'll see something like, oh, that's a really cool idea. On to the next thing. Like I don't take action. I don't write down like, oh, I'm going to like work on that. Whereas podcasting, I feel like people are there to actually like become better, unless you're just like listening to a story or something. There's entertainment, but I don't know. I like the medium of podcasting for that reason. I feel like my people are there because it's not like I just like to share ideas and stuff. I do it to help people transform. So if like I'm not helping anyone, ultimately, it just feels like minutia. Feels like a waste.
Yeah, I think like if somebody's listening right now, whatever the 33rd minute of the podcast, like they're clearly a lot more engaged than somebody who's scrolling through Instagram. So I think that there is some truth to the idea that the medium is the message. Marshall McClellan or McLuhan, I forget how to pronounce his name. The other thing that you mentioned about not having the business, I love that idea, man. I think about often if you and I hit our number, just liquid cash, whatever the number is, would that change our day-to-day activity? I think yes, at least for myself. I'd like to say no, like I'm living my best life now, doing everything I want to do. I have to assume there are certain things I'm doing right now I would stop. And you and I have some mutual friends. I'm not going to name names, but you and I have some mutual friends who I see have this like giant no card in their back pocket and they just like pull it out when they don't want to do stuff. And I'm like, I'd like a stack of no cards in my back pocket. And I can think of some things I'd be applying them to right now if I had that much leeway and freedom. And then even bigger than all that, I still think about that book by who's the long-haired hippie former celebrity
Brand.
Russell Brand. Yeah, so in that book, I forget the title of the book, but he talks a lot about the book is about addiction. He talks a lot about numbing and how a lot of things that we do is a way to numb and anesthetize pain. And obviously that's very obvious with addictive substances, but I think it's equally applicable to being on your phone or to compulsive working. And so I really feel that, man. I really feel how work can just be a distraction from not having to figure out what the point, the purpose of life is if it cannot be defined by putting my 60 hours in at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it creates some space that needs to be filled. Um, the the reset from COVID's been beneficial for a lot of reasons. The phone's been another one that you brought up. I feel like it was like destroying my life again. It does. It comes back and forth, and I don't know. I just put it away. Like even with my kid,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like right when there's like this time of day when I'm at my worst, and it's like right when I get off work, usually around like 3 or 4,
Mm-hmm.
until like dinner. And because I realized that's usually when I'm like, okay, like what's going on Instagram? Like, what's the news? Like, I'm just consuming all this like garbage. And then like, oh, my kid's over there. And I'm like on my phone. Oh, yeah, I'll be right. And then I'm like, oh, like, dude, I'm going to like, he's watching me. Like, so now I just have a reminder. It's been working the last like 2 weeks is like, put your phone away for 2 hours. And there's something meditative, or I don't know, meditative is the right word, but there's something that makes that work well for me, because I set a timer and then I put it away, and it's like the timer reinforces where if I just put it away I'll go grab it. But it's so crazy how our mind, at least my mind, will tell me so many different things are important, like, oh, you got to make that
Yeah,
note, you got to like do this. So I'm trying to find ways to where I can do that without an actual phone.
I love that, man. I don't think that's an overstatement to what you said about your phone ruining your life. That that doesn't feel like an overstatement to me. I've definitely had a compulsive relationship with my phone at times. It's weird. What's weird to me is like how it lowers the quality of my consciousness and presence,
Mm,
even when I'm not on it. So like if I'm on it a bunch and I overstimulate and then I have like a half hour or an hour where I'm not on it, it can still just kind of like numb me out where I'm looking to veg. It's conditioning the veg reflex, which is not the same thing as resting. An hour spent laying on the grass, reading a book in the sun is not the same thing as time not spent working. Like rest is not the opposite of not working. You feel me?
Go a little deeper on that.
So when I'm on my phone, I'm not working, but that's not rest. Rest
Right.
is something entirely different. Like rest is, I don't even know that I have a full definition for it, but I just know it's not the same thing as not working.
Yeah, man, it's a trip. We all so many of us struggle with it. I think have you seen that video, that viral video has been going around with Drew Barrymore, or I saw Drew Barrymore post it. It's like the great realization that comes
Uh-uh.
out of it's a trippy video. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Someone did a video about like how it's like a nursery rhyme. He's kind of reading a book to his son, but it's like supposed to be like way in the future, and it's about this time. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, they all looked back, and like everyone was just like ordering stuff on Amazon. Like, dude, I looked at my bank statement the other day. I showed my wife. I'm like, Amazon, 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 Amazon. I was like, we have to like stop using Amazon. Like, what's going on here? Like, it's not the money. It's just like Jeff Bezos is a lunatic. Like, from what I can tell, like, dude, the dude's going to be the first trillionaire in the world, and like people are making $12 an hour. Like, I'm sorry, I don't feel good about that. Like, once I got somewhat of a like margin at my business, I'm like, oh, I gotta pay my people. I can't sleep at night. Like, so the fact, like, I don't know, maybe I'm judging him too harshly, but
I don't, yeah, I think it's like mixed feelings there. I think, if nothing else, the thing that made me, I was chuckling about was just like, isn't it weird to look at your personal bank statements and feel like there must have been fraud because how the hell did all this money get spent?
dude, I almost spit coffee all over my keyboard, bro.
Like, who was doing this? Who was paying, making all these charges?
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, this is an interesting time, but I'm getting to look at all this stuff and I'm making adjustments. Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, there is a Bezos quote about what's going to be different in the future. People always ask him what's going to change, and he says it's better to reflect on what's not going to be the change. And I agree with that, man. I think like in the end, the things that matter the most important stuff, is not going to materially change 12 months from now. And
Yeah.
I take comfort in that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I guess the stock market thinks things will be fairly the same because that's come back strong.
I know it's really super confusing, so I've stopped paying attention. I've realized I have zero ability to understand, interpret the news and the virus and the stock market. I mean, I have very little ability to turn that into useful, actionable insights. So it's, at least if nothing else, I've resigned myself that it's entertainment and not education for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to do as little of that as possible. I love what Chad said on the call, Chad Johnson, on the call you did with Profit Coach yesterday. He said, COVID gives you permission to change anything you want.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great. Like, he was like, oh, you got to let a client go. Like, oh, COVID, like, I'm really sorry.
What can you do?
Right. So I thought that was good. But yeah, just to like the thing we've been talking about, I think other stuff pops up because you just have too much time and being on the phones, making us crazy. So putting that away and just having to sit with ourselves. So it's kind of where I'm at, man. It's an interesting time, but I'm enjoying it for the most part.
Yeah, I think I would say all things being equal, I am enjoying it, particularly relative to what other people are going through. I've got a lot to be grateful for. I'm making significant headway on my goals. I'm working through some hard and new things that are expanding capabilities. I've been crushing some books, and I've been trying to grow through it. I feel like that's the one thing I can always solace myself in, if I can find a topic that I'm really interested in and just kind of dive into it. So grateful for the growth that's coming through it, and grateful man, just like super grateful that I'm able to provide for my family. Peak stress for me was right when it was happening. It was like, what if the business implodes? What if I can't provide for my family? For
Right.
me, the thought of like losing 20% or, manageable business challenges versus not being able to provide for my family, like those are two, there's an ocean and a chasm between those two levels of stress and worry.
Yeah, it was crazy when that first kicked off. I was in that same spot. Like, nobody's gonna pay rent. Why would
Yeah.
anyone pay rent? Nobody's gonna pay rent. Um, and I think the reaction initially was protect, like cut everything off. Um, but I didn't go with that. I mean, it's probably the smart business thing to do, but my reaction was like, no, like at all costs, I have to keep my team like employed. I resonate with not being the bank and not like being stupid, and actually being smart keeps the business alive so you can keep people employed. But like, I don't know, although it was like scarcity at first, I don't know. I just look at my team like family too. So it was also protect them. Like I got to figure out what to do for them.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, in the end, that bet seems to have have proven things out. You know that I love constraints because of what they expose. I've talked to a couple of people that said that the forced shifts and changes in work have exposed efficiency. Like one guy I talked to
So much.
yesterday, yeah, like, so what are your thoughts? How does that relate to what you said? Like, people are family. I hear that, but at the same time, if you find out that somebody can do their job in a quarter of the time, like, what have you found out in terms of like what it's exposed in the business?
So I'm pretty confident and aware that people are not as busy as they used to be. And I'm not making a big deal out of that. Um, so there's definitely an efficiency there. But I feel like other times they're over busy, and like it's a pandemic. Like, what am I gonna do? Cut your hours? Like, I don't know. I'm not I don't want to say that and make anyone feel bad that's had to cut hours. I'm just speaking for myself. But I guess especially because we haven't been affected that bad, it ended up being the right bet. But no, tons of other efficiencies. Like we looked at the bank statement, paying for a bunch of stuff, like virtual office spaces we didn't even know we had. Like, different things like that. We were spending a lot on gifts. We got big into gifts, like giftology and like wow moments,
Yeah.
sending gifts to people. And I was glad to cut that off because I was thinking when we initially started the wow moment, we had a goal to do 200 wow moments this year. And the idea of it initially was not a gift thing. It was like you went above and beyond, or someone else went above and beyond. You noticed it and you put it in the spreadsheet, and then we like reflected on it and shared stories. But it quickly turned into this like, oh, like client A son just graduated from Rutgers, like send her like a Rutgers like sweater or something. I don't know. It was just like
Hmm.
it kind
Yeah.
of, and that's cool to a certain degree, but also like random gifts can be also, I don't know. Sometimes I get random gifts and I'm like, that's nice, but it's not very effective. I don't know. Like I don't like you more, or like I'm not gonna like re-up because of that, but I don't know. It's tricky.
It's my early mentor said that advantage is always competed away. That's a great example. Like, as the gifting and giftology stuff becomes more widespread, it's diluted. I don't think we're anywhere close to that, but it is a factor to folks that are like hyper aware of it, like me and you. I think the main thing I picked up from what you just said is that money is oftentimes a proxy, and it's a sloppy one. I throw money at marketing, not because I want marketing spend, I want results and outcomes, but the money is a proxy for effort and impact. Maybe what I actually needed was to pay attention to my channel strategy and where and how we are marketing, not to just like spend more money on it. Same thing. I'm what you're saying for gifts. I feel like that's a really profound insight, is that money can be a really sloppy proxy when it becomes routine. Like when you don't have to think about the check and the check goes on autopilot, that's when kind of the waste can creep in.
Yeah, totally.
All right, my man. Well, it's a pleasure as always. I wish there was like some occasion in which I was going to see you
I
in
know,
person.
man. Dude.
Have you booked anything? Like, are you guys just at a standstill in terms of like any travel stuff? Or are you bullish about being able to do any getaways?
I'm not bullish, but I know the time will come. Was a little bummed, but I'm excited because I spent a bunch of money on a plane ticket to coach in Toronto because Bob Abbott got me on the oh, you got to fly business class, bro. Like, and like I'd never done it, and so I did it like last quarter, and like once you go business class, like you
You
can't
don't
go
go back.
right. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I bought another ticket, and then coach is going to be virtual now for like they're not like they were holding out, and now they sent me an email saying like, okay, we're just going to do it. So now I have to like use this ticket and like but before the end of the year or something. So I'm excited to figure out somewhere to go do something.
Yeah, like a solo Steve flying somewhere around the world.
No, like family. I don't know. Maybe we should meet up somewhere or something.
Dude, I'd love to. Family in business class. Would you believe I've had my family in first class? We got bumped. We got upgraded one time. It like completely engendered my brand loyalty with Alaska Airlines. The fact that the time when my family of four was upgraded to first class, I was like, dope. Like you got me. I'm all in, baby.
Yeah. Oh man, that's expensive, but that's golden. I would love them too for that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, my man. Hey, it's great catching up. As always, those of you listening at home, hope you guys are standing strong and able to just kind of like take a minute to decompress and give yourself permission to acknowledge things are freaking crazy right now, but we're going to come out of it, and we're sending great thoughts and energy your way. If you ever want to chat, hit us up. Dude, maybe we should have somebody on the show sometime, like a little one-off.
Yeah, man, love it.
Think about it, baby.
All right. Cool. Everyone out there, love you guys. Jordan, good times. Thanks, man.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.